Hello and welcome to Light Up with Shwa podcast. It's a weekly podcast on conscious living and parenting. I hope you are enjoying so far, and my episodes recently have been on parent alienation. I am trying to cover it in Urdu and in English, and citing the research that is out there, and speaking from personal stories without taking the names, so that we can address this serious abuse, this serious, very damaging, abuse and effects that it has on children and the parents, and especially the alienated parent. Knowingly or unknowingly, some people do this. It is never a good thing to do to yourself and to your children, and especially for the children, it has long term effects and can be long lasting effects. So I hope if you are listening to this podcast, to these episodes, you will let me know which episode did you like, if you learned anything, if you would like to share your experience on parental alienation in any form or shape. It can happen with extended families or through extended families as well. It is called parental alienation in the West because mostly there are parents and the children. In other societies and cultures, there are extended families that can also play the role of parental alienation in addition to the parents, or sometimes maybe the parents are not really engaged in that behavior, but their extended families are causing brainwashing and feeding the children against one or the other parent and their families. It happens in many cultures. So I wonder, I don't know, I haven't read so far any research in the US that talks about the extended family doing such a behavior. And I understand because extended families mostly are not living together or in very close vicinity, or the situation is different as compared to other cultures. So if you like this podcast, please subscribe to it, or let me know how can I improve and which topics I can bring for you. And if you think this is beneficial in some form or shape, you can share this with your loved ones. If you can learn from this, I'm mostly citing the research, like today's episode also is on one of the podcast that Diana, let me give you the right name. So this episode that I am covering is from a podcast which is on how to detect, prevent, and overcome parental alienation. I will cover some of it. I cannot cover the whole podcast and the research by Dr. Benjamin Garber. This podcast is from this year in March, so it's the latest episode that I'm covering from. And he has a book, and also I will be mentioning that he's a licensed psychologist, former guardian ad litem, and parenting coordinator, and he has a book which I will mention in my conversation today. And Diana Shepherd is the host who interviewed Dr. Garber. So without further ado, I will get into the detection and the prevention as much as I can today. I hope you will benefit from this. And if those who are listening or watching this episode, if you are in it in any form or shape, please pay attention to this topic. It is something that I have found to be very damaging in my personal experience, without taking names and whose experience I'm talking about. But it is very important to pay attention to this issue. And I hope and pray that if you are the alienator, please seek help, find ways to take out your anger, or address your anger, not through a psychologist or therapist or a counselor, and not against your spouse, and don't damage your children in this process. If you are separating or divorcing, then it's better to keep your issues between you and your spouse, and be amicable and friendly with your children, and do not involve them in the negativity of your issues. So my website is lightupwithshwa.com. If you are interested, you can browse through the website and find out more about what I do, what topics I have covered, and other courses and MP3 that I have on the website, so you can go and look into it and see what you like, and let me know. Please do send me your feedback, your comments, and I would really appreciate, and that helps me a lot. Okay, so what we are covering today is, as I said, I will be covering this topic in Urdu as well. There is a lot of need in the subcontinent and other countries where Urdu is spoken. It's a language, mainly official language in Pakistan as well, and in India. So I hope people will learn, maybe translate it, and let others know that this issue needs to be addressed. All right, so here we go. So Diana Shepherd hosted Dr. Garber, Benjamin Garber, and asked a few questions. So I will begin with again, I have defined it in previous episodes, but I will continue to define it if I can in every episode, so that if somebody is just listening to this episode for the first time, or about this topic of parent alienation, then they can catch up and they don't have to worry about not knowing about the topic or previous episodes. But I will encourage, they are not too long. You can always go and learn about this topic and what you can do, all the things that I have mentioned so far. So I'm continuing to cover, and I will be covering other topics on this issue of why we get angry and why do we take it out on others through our kids, especially in parent alienation. If we have if we are satisfied and we have a heart that is at peace, then we might not be doing all this negativity or spewing out negative stuff against others. If this, what I'm talking about is in this process, you are doing it to your spouse or ex-spouse, ex-wife or husband. It happens commonly in divorced or separated people, but which I have mentioned in my previous episode also, that it can happen in intact parents who are not separated and divorced, but they have issues among themselves, and they take it out in different forms and shape, and which is further, it is damaging in any situation anyways, but in this case it can be very deceptive, and one or the parents can feel quite a betrayal. So when Diana Shepherd asked Dr. Garber, what is parental alienation? So that's the first question of this episode today that I will be covering, and that is what she covered. I know I can give you the link and you can go and listen to it, but I will be adding all the other research that I am doing along with this, because that is what the difference will be, to add to the information and find out how we can tackle this abuse through various ways. I am not only quoting that episode, but I will be also talking about another research and article which Dr. Philip Koszyk and William Bernet talked about, and that is treatment and prevention of parental alienation. So I do want to talk about what happens and all the story behind it, but we need to talk about how to prevent, how to treat this, and how we can detect it. And this is important too, so we can save our children, ourselves, from getting into this horrible situation that can occur, and it has occurred all over the world. So Dr. Diana Shepherd, I will leave the link. You can find out about her podcast and who she is. She's also a editorial director of Divorce Magazine and a facilitator for the Divorce School. So when asked about this question, that what is parent alienation, Dr. Garber said that it is actually a very natural and necessary dynamic that helps us define where we belong and who we belong with. That happens in the families. When alienation breaks groups apart, it becomes a destructive dynamic. So in particular, when co-parents are in high conflict and either parent exposes the child to unwanted negatives. So that's the important part, the unwanted negativity of one parent or the other, which can result in a very destructive process for the child, causing the child to feel a loyalty bind. So my issue with this situation, this abuse, is that you think that you are taking out, or you're taking out your hurt or anger about your spouse on him or her, but actually you are really causing quite a destruction and damage to your children without realizing that you are doing that. So in this situation, it is as if loving one parent costs him the love of the other, or is a betrayal of the other. We call this dynamic generally parental alienation. This is how Dr. Garber defined it. It is very hard in psychology to pin it down exactly, and this research is going on, and because human beings are complicated, it's not easy to put this into a very clear-cut form, because it is not. It is very hard to find if parental alienation is taking place in many cases, especially in couples that are intact. But some people keep their grudges and are not very happy with their spouses. I wish we can learn how to address our differences, our unhappiness with our spouses, and take care of it as an adult, mature adult, rather than as an immature, irresponsible adult who is not only damaging their own relationship but really causing a huge damage to their own children. So next question was, so why does this happen? And obviously the Dr. Garber said that I wish I knew the answer, but nobody really knows about it. How can we figure it out right away? It takes little time, but according to Dr. Garber, he thinks that parents who engage in this very destructive process is when there are stresses, and they are losing an intimate relationship, or divorce is happening, or separation is taking place, and that causes people to act very selfishly and immaturely, putting your own needs first and not realizing that you have lived together, you have made life, not to dismiss it so quickly, and in that process hurting, damaging your own children for whom you are going. Mostly parents love their children and they are going crazy over them. The stresses of an adult breakup can interfere with the person's ability to behave in a mature and child-centered way. Let me tell you about when parental alienation is also considered, that it, as I said earlier, that it affects children and alienates one of the parent. Children are at increased people who alienate their spouses. Their children, whom the parent is using to alienate the other parent, are at increased risk for future trust and relationship issues, depression, and substance abuse. So for a rejected parent, the pain is excruciating. So you can understand there are so many examples that exist in the world. If you research, you will find out the stories of mother or father, how they face and what they go through. And I can mention one of the stories of, the name has been changed, and this article is in Psychiatric Times, and I will be leaving the link of this as well, in which Dr. Jones shared his journey with the person who wrote the article, the MD that I've mentioned, Philip Koszyk and William Bernet, because they are talking about how to treat and prevent parent alienation. And that's why I'm doing this podcast and episode and series of episodes, because I want this to end or prevent it for people who are facing this, and children especially, because it is very damaging, and at times maybe it is hard to undo or reverse the damage. So that makes me sad, and I hope nobody has to go through it. It is always my wish and prayer. So it impacts people from all walks of life. Dr. Jones, as I mentioned, in his case, he was a doctor himself. So like many young professionals, Dr. Jones found work-life balance challenging when his children were little, and he loved his time with them. He would play with them. He would play with his daughter, played Barbie dolls with her. He played, baseball or all the hours he could with his son, and he spent a lot of time. And things started to change after some time, because before he was really invested and they were doing a lot of activities he was doing with the children, and mother was mostly keeping appointments and all. And here I would like to stop, that I would really encourage couples and parents to distribute the activities. If you are making appointments, don't just continue forever to just make appointments and be a secretary for the house and the children. If you both can distribute and take responsibilities and exchange them, so that children would know, okay, if my mother washes the dishes and takes care of the house, and father keeps appointments and takes them out for games and all the activities, then I hope the mother is capable, or at least can do half of those chores that the father does, which are appropriate for her and her situation and her abilities. Then that way children are not just stuck with one parent doing this and the other not doing that kind of situation. Because while I was reading these articles and researching, I felt, and while I'm saying this, there's no one way or perfect way to fix or undo parental alienation right away. But I think if from the beginning, first of all, if you have a pure heart, if you are not intending malintentions and you're not hating your spouse, then you wouldn't do this. Even if you separate or divorce, you would not take out the anger, the grudge through your children. I think that's where I will be coming in future episodes, that how can we have peace in our heart and mind and not be so petty and immature about our life and relationships, because you know what, we all are going to die, and we should think of it this way. I know this sounds maybe for some morbid or extreme, and I also am aware that in the West we are not very comfortable with the concept of death and all, and I will be talking about that topic as well, because we can all deny, but that doesn't help, because we all are born without our will, or that's what apparently feels like, that you have no control over your birth and you have no control over your death. So in the middle, the time that we have, why to waste on negativity, or why to damage one another in a way that is hurting us for the lifetime that we are, whatever lifetime we have on this earth. So I do want to bring it in a holistic way. This topic is not in isolation, that it just happens and when you get divorced or separated and that's when it happens. No, it happens because you maybe have faced in your own home when you were a child this kind of behavior from your parents or extended family, and you are not realizing and not able to break the cycle. So I feel empathy with you, because knowingly, unknowingly, we are doing many things that are hurting us. Now, how to figure it out? Now, this information is for those who don't think they're doing it, or if they know that they are the alienators or the targeted parent who is being alienated, then they can find a solution, help, or something. So my goal here is to bring awareness and consciousness to these topics, which I feel are very important, because this is part of the conscious parenting that I have started more than 3 years ago. And that is only in the form of podcasts. But obviously, I have been working on this on myself for decades. And so this is very close to me. These topics regarding parents and how we behave are the main thing. That's how we bring our children into this world, and we whatever we do, it impacts our homes, our communities, and our societies, our cultures, our nations. So it is not limited to your and mine home, household, or just a limited number of people. It affects the whole universe, the whole earth, the whole globe, directly and indirectly. When you leave if you do, let's say, which I am talking about, the parental alienation topic, and if I am the person who is targeting another parent, or I am the targeted parent, what am I teaching my children, and what do you expect them to do? What do you think your children are going to do in future, right? I hope they can break the cycle and stop it where it started and just ends in that home. But it hasn't happened, because psychologically it's been proven that they can repeat the cycle, and if they don't realize. So we want to save our children from getting into this horrible cycle and trap, and we don't want our children to be doing this to their children in future, right? I don't think parents who are alienating their children and their parents or their spouses would want this cycle to continue. Honestly, ask yourself, do you really want to do that? Do you want the destruction to continue? Because if you do want, then there is a big issue. And mostly I believe that human beings are good in nature and they do not want destruction. But if they don't realize, temporarily we all can be destructive. So I have taken only 2 points yet, and I have already crossed 25 minutes. So I would like to end it here, and I'm hoping to continue to cover in the next few episodes this topic of parent alienation with the research that I found from Dr. The host, who is Diana Shepherd, and Dr. Benjamin Garber. So I have a lot going on, in terms of research. So forgive me if you feel that it's a lot of information and a lot of content, and it's overwhelming. You can listen to this episode again. You can ask me questions, but I am leaving the links of this research, and hopefully we will continue this conversation in upcoming episodes. So thank you for listening. I hope you have a good day and can save yourselves from this emotional abuse, this psychological abuse, your children and you. So I wish you all the best. Please find peace for yourself and figure out ways how to do that. It is very important to live a good life and learn how to navigate through the challenges in the best possible way. Till the next week, I wish you all the best. Talk to you soon.